Hello and welcome. This is the newsroom for today, Wednesday, November 11, 2020. We're broadcasting to you on E1, Scar TV, NTN, and Tertiary TV in Bartica. These are the headlines. A 16-year-old Essequibo girl is stabbed to death by a married man she rejected. COVID-19 cases in St. Cuthbert's Mission increased by 48, while 2 students in Bartica test positive.
As of today, we now have about 145 cases of COVID-19 in St. Cuthbert's Mission.
Senior Superintendent Edmund Cooper, who was admitted to the bar, wants the police force to support higher education for officers. The Indian government offers support to Guyana's Gas to Shore project. And in sport, we hear from Guyana's first IPL winner, Sherfane Rutherford. With the news, I'm Neil Marks. We're glad you could join us. A Richmond Hill, Essequibo Coast teenager was stabbed to death in her home on Wednesday at about 9 in the morning by a married man she had rejected. The teen has been identified as 16-year-old Sanisha Lal, called Amisha. The man consumed a poisonous substance after and was found in the Better Hope Essequibo Coast backdam. Police took him to the Saudi hospital where he is undergoing treatment. Lal had been living in Georgetown but returned to the Essequibo Coast after her father died. Relatives said the man had pursued the teen, but she spurned him completely when she found out that he was married. Relatives told the newsroom that Lal was stabbed by the 34-year-old man who came to the house. A younger sister said the man rushed in the house and attacked Lal after they told him he could not enter the yard. The sister said Lal was stabbed multiple times. The teenager lived with her 3 siblings after both their parents died. Relatives explained that the man insisted on having a relationship with the young woman, though she rejected him repeatedly. 2 students in Bartica, Region 7, have tested positive for COVID-19 and are currently being isolated at their respective dorms. This was confirmed to the newsroom by Government Medical Officer Dr. Terence George. The 2 positive cases are both females, aged 15 and 16, one from Bartica Secondary School and the other from 3 Miles Secondary. Dr. George said the cases were imported as the students are not from Bartica. The isolation will last for 14 days. Testing of students started on Monday. 24 tests were done and the results returned early Wednesday morning. The medical officer said additional tests were done Wednesday along with contact tracing. Dr. George has assured that the situation is under control. He wants all students to be tested in Bartica and not only those coming from out of the region, as was done on Monday. There are currently 24 active COVID-19 cases in Region 7, with 18 of those cases from Bartica alone. Region 7 recorded 388 positive cases with 9 deaths and 355 recoveries. Earlier this week, a total of 8 students had tested positive for COVID-19 at President's College. 4 of those cases were of students who were transferred to the school from Cato in Region 8.
So at St. Cuthbert's, we've actually added another doctor to the team that is already there. And so that person would have been there from yesterday. We continue to monitor the residents of St. Cuthbert's and we continue to do testing. Yesterday we took off an additional set of swabs, and as of today we now have about 145 cases of COVID-19 in St. Cuthbert's Mission. We expect as we continue testing we will find additional persons who will test positive, and we have put restrictions of movement in and out of St. Cuthbert's Mission. We are aided by the police and the CDC, who is assisting us in restricting movements. We have spoken to the village council, ourselves and the Ministry of American Affairs about 3 days ago, and they have agreed to this intervention, and they are collaborating with us to ensure that we keep the residents in there safe. We also have the medical team that we have there. They would monitor the residents to see whether or not people move from mild to more moderate or severe symptoms. And if they detect such movements, then they would move those patients out and bring them down to the hospital.
Some private schools in Guyana have reopened their doors to face-to-face learning, while at the same time they are engaged in online teaching. This blended approach was developed after public schools reopened on Monday last for students in grades 10, 11 and 12 who are preparing for the CSEC and CAPE examinations. Isanella Patro has more.
Some private schools across the country have welcomed the government's decision to reopen schools for secondary school students who are sitting exams next year. Shazad Ali, Director of Studies at the Apex Education at Montrose on the east coast of Demerara, told the newsroom that 4th and 5th form students have returned to the school under strict COVID-19 rules. Students in 4th form attend school on alternate days, while 5th formers attend school every day. Parents were also asked to drop students off early and to pick them up at a certain time to avoid any contagion.
We have been adhering to the 620-100 COVID health protocol. In fact, we wrote a grade 6 and the CSEC examination right here at the center. We have systems in place when persons would be accessing our campuses. We put markings at 6 feet apart, and that when they come into this sanitization hub, they will have to be tested with a non-contact infrared thermometer, and then we would be applying the antimicrobial agent, and students will be washing their hands.
The director further explained that parents in the medical field will be working on a voluntary basis at the school, and they have also established a quarantine area in the event that any student shows symptoms of COVID-19. With the strain on every household due to the pandemic, Apex Education is also offering a discount to the tuition fees, and for students who cannot access online classes, the school will be providing learning packages for them.
Since March gone to now, we are not taking any registration fee. So that's $5,000 we're not charging us registration fee. And all nursery students have 50% discount. Imagine 50%. And the primary 25% and secondary 15%. So we are seeing with parents all the way.
Meanwhile, School of the Nations in Georgetown is prepared to resume face-to-face learning, but the director, Brian O'Toole, explained that a survey with parents showed that the majority preferred to continue online classes. The director also lamented that students and educators are faced with constant blackouts and poor internet service during online classes. However, he highlighted that attendance in class is higher as a result of online learning.
So all of our classes now down to nursery, up to A levels, and all of our university level classes, all of them are online. I would say that the great majority of people have been very happy with it. In fact, following the guidance from Minister of Education that schools were allowed, if you like, to open on Monday, we sent out a survey to all our parents, and 76% of them said, no, we're very happy with online, we prefer to stay online. We still are very concerned about the health risks.
According to the director, over 200 students have transferred to the school since the pandemic hit Guyana in March. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanella Patwo.
When the newsroom returns, Senior Superintendent Edmund Cooper, who was admitted to the bar, wants the police force to support higher education for officers. And the Indian government will soon send experts to advise on the way forward for the shuttered sugar estates. This is the newsroom. The Indian government will soon be sending experts to advise the Guyana government on the reopening of the closed sugar estates. The experts will also make recommendations on how the sector can be diversified in a way that nothing is wasted. In an interview with the newsroom on Wednesday, India's High Commissioner to Guyana, Dr. K.J. Srinivasa, said the Indian private sector has also expressed great interest in entering into public-private partnerships to fund the development of the local sugar industry.
You know, they have requested for experts from India. So they will function as advisors. So we are in the process of, trying to see what best can be done to which advisors to be sent to Guyana. So it's being processed by the Indian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So that is one thing. Second thing is the participation of the private sector. So I think there is a thinking in the government for the public-private partnership award. So they already sent out the expression of interest circular out, the advertisement was out. So there are people from India who already come and express their interest in joining hands with the government of Guyana's proposal. You know, the interest of the Indian private sector into the Guyanese sugar sector is immense. We already had at least 3 companies who have expressed their interest, and we expect more companies to, come in. Because what I see personally is that the sugar sector, with the participation of the private sector, could yield good results. Back home in India, sugar is a completely private sector. So the government does policies, guidelines, and takes care that the farmers are not shortchanged. It's a different setup in India where private farmers farm, then they go with their cane to certain factories and they are paid for their produce, and the factory buys that sugar. So once the sugarcane enters a sugar factory in India, nothing comes out literally. So it goes in, you make white sugar, you make brown sugar, then you make ethanol, then you make you use that for cogeneration of electricity, then you do the gas, and then they do fertilizers out of the remaining part. So nothing comes out. So this, I think, will once you incorporate all these changes into the sugar factories in Guyana. I visited them with the Honorable Minister for Agriculture, all the facilities, about 6 factories we went, and I think there is tremendous scope that can be utilized by the private sector enterprises in Guyana.
The People's Progressive Party government has committed to reopening 3 sugar estates which were closed by the former APNU plus AFC administration. The government has asked India to offer technical support since that country has a sugar industry which is over 2,000 years old. Senior Superintendent Edmund Cooper will now be practicing law as well as enforcing the law after he was admitted to the bar on Tuesday. The senior officer, during an interview with the Newsroom, lamented the challenges he faced to obtain his degree and urged the Guyana Police Force to sponsor and support officers to pursue higher education in areas that will directly benefit the organization. His dream is to see the police force better trained and educated to better serve the people of Guyana.
Senior Superintendent Edmund Cooper spent more than half of his life serving in the Guyana Police Force, and after 9 years of juggling his career and studies, he has finally completed his Bachelor of Laws degree at the Hugh Wooding Law School, University of the West Indies. The senior cop explained during an interview with the Newsroom that he started pursuing law in 2009 at the University of Guyana and was finally able to complete his studies with tremendous support from his wife and 2 daughters. For Cooper, it will not be a major change or transition into the new profession since he has been serving as a prosecutor for years. He was admitted before Chief Justice Acting Roxanne George, while his petition was submitted by attorneys Ronald Birch-Smith and Mark Waldron.
And over the years, I have developed a likeness to the law. All right, I've been a prosecutor for 14 years. I've prosecuted in all the courts in Guyana. And I used to be working with now Justice Reynolds and some other magistrates who have seen the potential in me and would advise me as time goes on to pursue law. And I took the opportunity and I did so. But I must say, it was not an easy task, it was difficult. I had several challenges in the organization whilst pursuing that law program, but at the end I triumphed.
Among his qualifications, Cooper holds an international diploma in leadership studies from the American University of Peace Studies, a diploma in private investigation from Penn Foster College in the USA, a diploma in public safety and security management from the University of Guyana, a certificate in criminology from the University of Guyana, a diploma in legal studies, a master's of arts legal studies, major in criminology, industrial relation and sociology, and now a legal education certificate from the Hugh Wooding Law School. He explained that he acquired all this while serving in the police force and at his own expense. He is also currently pursuing a PhD in terrorism and counterterrorism at the Charisma University in the Turks and Caicos. With an aim to break the stereotype that police officers are unintelligent, Cooper is urging the police force to support and even sponsor officers who wish to pursue further studies in areas that will benefit the force.
God forbid, never know what happened, where the police duties will be called to question, and you need to have person with certain requisite skill to deal with those eventualities properly, because the public generally expect nothing but the best from the police. And so I would encourage at all times my colleagues to continue studying, keeping the spectrum of your study within the confines of your duties. That's my humble view. The organization to move forward, it's important that our ranks and file are very educated to address any eventualities. Well, my suggestion, and this is my home view, that the organization as a whole should sponsor persons to do program so that they could come back and make a meaningful contribution to the society, and together we would be second to none out there.
Cooper, who recently served as commander for Region 5, is now the head of the project's office at Evaleri headquarters. He also lectures and shares his knowledge acquired over the years with other officers.
Finally, what I would like to say is this. In an organization like ours, camaraderie is very important and pivotal, because the oneness in the organization right now, in my humble view, is missing. And so what I would advise my seniors is for us to come together as officers so that we could ensure that the public see us as one main law enforcement arm of the state in this country. There should not be any fraction in this organization. That's what I'm hoping for.
Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanala Patwo.
Alta Penitent's Georgetown woman is threatening to take the Georgetown Mayor and City Council to court for $40 million she said is owed to her for maintenance works in the city, including cutting trees and bushes and cleaning canals. In a letter from her attorney dated November 9, 2020, Donna Harcourt said the council entered into a one-year agreement with her on December 1st, 2017, and she executed works under the contract but has not been paid. She claimed the agreement was that she would be paid $4 million every week. Under the contract, she agreed to provide certain maintenance services, including but not limited to the cutting of trees, bushes, and other vegetation from the road shoulders, parapet, avenue, malls, carriageways, and the desilting of alleyways and street drains for the wards of Borda, North and South Commingsburg, Durban Park, Laceytown, and Starbrook. The contract, seen by the newsroom, was signed by Harcourt with witnesses Althea Cromwell and Eustace Harcourt. Two local software engineers have partnered to develop an app which can notify you when you've come into close contact with someone who tested positive for COVID-19. Utilizing the exposure tracking software launched by Apple and Google earlier this year, the app, named Beat COVID, can be used to send a rapid notification to persons who have been exposed to COVID-19 with instructions about the next steps they can take. For it to work, both persons must have the application downloaded on their cell phones. The newsroom on Wednesday spoke with the two developers of the app, 21-year-old Yesu Persaud and 23-year-old Nicholas Sitaram, who explained how it works.
So if I test positive for COVID-19, I would upload my IDs to a server, and these IDs would be distributed to everybody else. So you would get the ID, in that case you would get my ID, and the app would match that ID with IDs that you have been near to. And that's how it would know that you are near to me and you may have been exposed to COVID-19. All right, so this is the screen that the user will see when they download the app. The first thing I want to highlight is it's completely optional for the person to turn on contact tracing, and they can turn it off whenever they like. So they don't have to, it doesn't have to always be on. The next part of the flow, it will start from when someone tests positive for COVID-19. So I'll go over to Nicholas to do that part.
This is where the officials will be logging in. So let's say doctor@example.com. And this is where the dashboard is going to be to add the contagious person. So basically we add a test date. So I'll just say the 1st of November. The symptoms on test date would be the 2nd, and the phone number would be 9511, right? And add the test. So a notification would have been sent to Satish phone.
All right, so the user will receive this SMS. and it would have a link with a unique URL so no one can guess it. When they click on it, they will get an explanation of what happens here. They can choose to notify other users. Well, I saw that a lot of countries have been developing their own apps, and recently I saw that the government was looking in that direction of developing their own app, and they were looking to outsource it. And I thought to myself that we have the talent in Guyana to do such an app, so that's why I went ahead and do it. So in order for us to fully complete this application, the ministry needs to get permission from Google and Apple to complete the app and publish it on Google Play Store and the Apple App Store.
To ensure the app is fully operational, the two young men are also seeking the Ministry of Health's partnership on the way forward. Still ahead on the newsroom, the Indian government offers to support Guyana's Gas to Shore project. Stay tuned. You're watching the newsroom. Some 900 Guyanese have applied for scholarships to attend the country's premier tertiary institution, the University of Guyana. Others have applied to attend the Guyana School of Agriculture, Minister of Public Service Yesu Persaud has said. During an interview with the newsroom over the telephone, the minister said this is the scholarship season and staff at the Ministry of Public Service are currently busy conducting interviews to move the process forward in approving scholarships across the board. Persaud explained that the scholarship applications are for the current academic year and the ministry hopes to award the approved scholarships by next week. She said the largest grant of scholarships usually goes to the university.
Because we came on at the time when scholarships should have been advertised already and being dealt with, we had to sprint really to meet the opening deadline for the opening schedule date for University of Guyana, which is our largest grant of scholarships. And we are in the process of interviewing persons, and hopefully that will come to an end this week. And we will be able to award those to the University of Guyana. We are also dealing with the Guyana School of Agriculture. We have dealt with Russia. We have dealt with the Aeronautical School and several other places, and overseas scholarships as well. So we have been overwhelmed for the last 2 or 3 weeks as it relates to scholarships, but we are hoping that we will be able to meet the public's demands in terms of the grants of scholarships before the end of the week, or by the end of this week.
Minister Persaud told the newsroom that her ministry is also dealing with all overseas scholarships along with applications received from students in the hinterland areas. She said for 2019, applicants in regions 8 and 9 did not get a single scholarship. India's High Commissioner to Guyana, Dr. K.J. Srinivasa, has offered his country's support for Guyana's Gas to Shore project, which is expected to come on stream in 2023. In an interview with the newsroom's Bibi Khatoon on Wednesday, the Indian High Commissioner also reiterated his government's interest in purchasing oil blocks in Guyana and purchasing oil through a government-to-government agreement. India currently purchases oil from Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Russia. They previously bought oil from Venezuela but had to stop as a result of U.S. sanctions. As such, the diplomat said that the logistics are already in place for the deal to move forward with Guyana.
And also, once the natural gas comes to onshore, the project for electricity, we have good expertise in that also, natural gas to electricity. In fact, in Antigua, one of our companies has been shortlisted among the top 5 companies to bid for a 40 megawatt natural gas project for electricity. So they are right next door in Antigua. So I think we do have the expertise, and we are willing to work on that. India is very much interested in 2 things. One, investing into the oil sector when the next blocks are coming up for bidding. Second is, we are interested in taking oil from the government on its share. Basically, when Government of Guyana gets its share, we already were trying to see if we can talk to the Government of Guyana authorities, do a government-to-government agreement, wherein we say the Government of India will purchase your oil at the market prices. Of course, we won't go beyond that. So we are willing to pay the market price. Government-to-government agreements. You know, in India we have 4 big behemoth oil companies who are into upstream, downstream, marketing, retail, everything. So they have their own refineries and everything. So they are each worth more than 50 billion US. So one of them has been nominated to deal directly for Guyana. So we have expressed our interest. We await the response from the Guyanese government.
On Friday last, Vice President Barra Jagdeo said the Guyana government has already started working on the gas-to-energy project, which will be able to supply 200 to 250 megawatts of energy to the national grid. Jagdeo disclosed that there is also an aim to supply the entire country with cooking gas. With the COVID-19 pandemic still preventing large gatherings of people, CWC Global Future Energy Limited has noted its intention to push ahead with its first Guyana Oil and Gas Virtual Summit, offering seamless access for local businesses to participate. Global Future Energy is regarded as a world-leading producer of events, courses, conferences, and exhibitions in the energy and infrastructure industries. It now promises Guyanese a prime opportunity to gain knowledge on a range of related topics to position their business to benefit immensely from the oil and gas sector. The summit, which will be hosted from December 1st to the 3rd, will bring together an array of international players and experts, local and government authorities, along with members from the private sector. During a virtual briefing on Wednesday, a company representative, Tiago Marquez, explained that the key objective is to bring together oil and gas experts, the government and private sector, along with local businesses, and offer the opportunity to learn about best practices in the sector.
We have 100 places for the first 100 Guyanese locals that will be free, because obviously they will be the ones that are more excited and will get that first. And then for other registrations, the cost is $50 per person. Then there's an international price for companies that are international, because we do understand that the international companies have different budgets, and obviously they also want to invest in Guyana. So they will, they will also have that capability. What we really try to do here is to give the opportunity for Guyanese businesses. Guyana, it is starting to embark on its journey for oil and gas. So it's really important to give the Guyanese businesses this opportunity, because they will partner with internationals in the future. So
when the newsroom returns, the financial weather and bridge reports, along with sport. Hello, you're watching the newsroom. It's time for sport, and we begin with cricket. Mumbai Indians all-rounder Shafin Rutherford is the first Guyanese cricketer to lift the Indian Premier League trophy, and while he did not feature in any of the matches this season, he said a lifelong dream has been accomplished.
Shafin, firstly, congrats on winning the IPL title with the Mumbai Indians. What was the emotions like, after that win?
Yeah, well, thanks, and first of all, thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, winning a tournament is never easy, because it starts from the preparation, and that's where it all starts from, the work that we have been putting in for the past 2 months. It shows on the field, and winning the tournament was the best thing for me. Like, I can remember, 3 days before the finals, there was no sleep. I was just up anxious, because I never won a tournament before, and I was just thinking about it and thinking how I can contribute even though I wasn't playing. But I think the guys have done well, and all the work that I've been putting in over the 2 months, it showed that once you keep working hard, that it's going to show on the field.
Tell us about that, being on the bench. Obviously, you went in with a high price tag. There is a mental side of thinking you would play. You come from a team where you usually are a part of the starting 11, but you had to be on the bench for the entire tournament with the Mumbai Indians. So how difficult was that for you?
For me, it wasn't difficult. I mean, it's cricket, and sometimes in cricket, you play it, sometimes you don't. But it's how best you can learn, because there's a lot to learn. Whether you play or not, there's so much to learn, so much to ask, and there's so much things you can do even though you're not playing. So for me, it was all about learning from the senior guys, from the coaches, sit down while the game playing, see what the coach thinks about our batsman think, our bowler should bowl. So for me, it was about learning, not really upset about not playing, because I mean, once we're winning and once the team is performing, that's all that matters to me.
Tell me about the Mahela Jayawardene effect. One of the greatest players to play the game. He's the coach of the Indians. Having part as well. Tell me about what you would have learned being on the bench then, if you want to put it in that regards, in terms of developing your own game.
Oh, well, one of the standout things for me was keeping things simple. Don't overreact, and it shows that if you keep it simple and the team that panic less gonna win. So those are some of the things that I learned from him. And also, he told me, well, he was talking to the team and he was telling us that it's just a game. You don't go into no game with too much of expectation, because that's when you fail. So those are things that stand out, and those are things that I take with me from the tournament and will look to add to my game and look to be better.
First Guyanese to lift an IPL title. On the other side, you had two very good mates, Kimo and Hetmeyer, losing out on the title. What was the banter like after the match among the three of you? You won and they would have lost the title.
Well, before the game, the three of us was talking, and I was like, one of the Guyanese have to get it today. And we started laughing. And after, they would come to me and it was like, you were for us. I was like, yeah, I'm for us. And, it's a joy, and it's very, very happy that, I'm the force, and in a team where there are so much of good players, and to show me that, winning is never an easy thing, and the work ethics and everything before the winning, it was exceptional. So for me, it's a joy, and I'm very happy to be the force.
And tell me about that hunger you have now to get back into the West Indies team, and obviously playing again for the Guyana Jaguars. It's been a while since you've been, I guess, active on the field playing cricket. You've been around some tournaments, but I know you want to be back in the Maroon playing again for sure.
Well, that's my main goal. I mean, I've failed the fitness test once, so I think that's one of the reasons I'm out, and I didn't have a great CPL. But, coming into Mumbai, there was a lot of work put in. I had the trainer who was working on my fitness as well, because I was telling him that I need to get to 40. So there was a lot of work being put in and still putting in. So I think that I'm working very hard to get back there, because, that's my dream. That's where I want to play. That's where I want to be. So I think the work that I'm putting in right now is going to show over the next year whenever the opportunity presents back itself.
And finally, I know you're in Pakistan for a league over there, just a couple of days. I guess you'll be hoping that you can get some match time and remind the world of the talent of Shafin Rutherford.
Well, yeah, that's the main reason I'm here. It's been a while. 4 months I haven't played cricket, but I'm in good form, I'm in good shape. I've been training, I've been putting in the work. So, it's just another opportunity for me to just go, enjoy, keep it simple, and show the world what I can do.
And now here's the rest of the sport news with Avinash Ramzan. I'm Neil Marks. Take care.
We tell you now that Chief Executive Officer of Cricket West Indies, Johnny Grave, said while West Indies being barred from training for the remainder of the quarantine period is a huge blow to the team's preparation, they are in agreement with the actions taken by authorities in New Zealand. It was reported on Tuesday night, Caribbean time, that players were found in breach of the COVID-19 protocols by sharing food and socializing in hallways of their government-approved hotel.
In the early hours of the morning in Antigua, where I'm based in the Caribbean, I was informed by New Zealand Cricket that they'd received reports from the Ministry of Health that's managing the quarantine facility where our West Indies touring party is based in Christchurch, that the protocols that had been in place within their managed isolation facility had been compromised. So I wasn't really given any more information. It was the early hours of the morning. Obviously, earlier then this morning, we jumped onto calls with both New Zealand Cricket and about 2 hours ago, the Ministry of Health and their medical practitioners and advisors. So the information that we have received so far is that we've been told that there were some incidents involving some players who have compromised the bubble integrity of the quarantine facility. And for those of you that aren't aware, the managed quarantine facility, we were able to get exemption by the New Zealand government that allowed us to, after the 4th day of quarantine, train at the New Zealand Cricket High Performance Centre at Lincoln University in Christchurch. So since day 4, we've been able to train, which is, as I said, a special exemption granted to us by the New Zealand government. We were, for days 4 to 7, in 3 bubbles. And then after the first week of quarantine, we were able to extend the bubble size to a maximum of 20 people. So for the last few days, we've been operating the managed isolation facility with 2 bubbles of 20 players. Now, those bubbles are strictly managed, and no one can socialize or train or interact with other members of the group. So that's the background to how we've been operating within the facility. So the information that we've been told thus far is that there were a few incidents involving a mixing between those 2 bubbles within the 2 West Indies groups. So there's no evidence at this stage that any members of the touring party left the facility, or that any unauthorized person accessed it, or that any members of our touring party interacted with anyone who may be at that managed isolation facility outside of, obviously, support staff and medical practitioners from the New Zealand authorities that are managing the facility. So obviously, it's fair to say that we are extremely disappointed that some of the players seem to have interacted with other members of their respective bubbles. We're certainly in full support of the action taken by the New Zealand Ministry of Health, which is that for the remaining part of the quarantine period, we will be unable to train. Clearly, with limited preparation due to COVID-19 protocols here in the Caribbean and in New Zealand, it's a huge blow to our preparation to have no training for the next 3 days. That said, I do want to stress that we are, as an organisation, in full support of the New Zealand Ministry of Health's position and the action that they've taken. And we have written to all the players a couple of hours ago, re-emphasising the importance of strictly following all of these protocols, and the importance that they do that for their own health and safety and well-being, but also clearly to support the New Zealand government's aims and objective in keeping the New Zealand population COVID-free. So they have a huge responsibility, but we have reminded them of the importance of them doing that, and we have already begun an internal investigation into these reported incidents that will be led by our team manager, Roy Lewis.
Meanwhile, West Indies assistant coach Roddy Estwick has described Guyanese cricketer Kimo Paul as an exceptional talent with an extremely bright future, but says he wants to see him back in more red ball cricket. Akim Green reports.
Paul last played a full-fledged first-class cricket in the 2017-18 season, which catapulted him into the Test squad in July 2018, after he had some impressive stints in the limited overs format. This season, he only played 1 first-class match and got 7 wickets against Barbados Pride. His last of his 3 tests was in February 2019 against England, where it was cut short due to injury. On the flip side, from March 2019 to February 2020, he has featured in 37 limited overs matches for West Indies, with Jason Holder being the captain of the Test team and the male all-rounder who bats at 8. Then 3 Forrester men comes after. Paul has found it difficult to break into the Test 11, but he's been a consistent face in the 15-man squad, except for the tour to England where he opted not to tour.
We know the talented Kimo Paul. There's no doubt about that. A wonderful, talented cricketer. He reminds me of someone like the late Keith Boyce from Barbados, who represented the West Indies. Very, very athletic fielder, good mover, nice timer of the ball. There's lots of talent in, and remember, Kimo is only 20.
The Test reserves, the T20 players, and the players who are not a part of the Test match can feature in the West Indies team A matches against New Zealand A. And Estwick hinted it will be a chance for Paul to showcase his red ball skills. The coach highlighted that the 1 full season Paul played, he took over 40 wickets, 42 to be exact, which was his natural ability.
We know the talent of Kimo Paul. There's no doubt about that. A wonderful, talented cricketer. He reminds me of someone like the late Keith Boyce from Barbados, who represented the West Indies. Very, very athletic fielder, good mover, nice timer of the ball. There's lots of talent in, and remember, Kimo is only 24. So it's about how hard they prepare to work and how much preparation they're going to put in. And once Kimo can do that and he can get first-class cricket under his belt, then there's no doubt about his talent. Because the last time he played a full first-class season, he got 40-odd first-class wicket. So there's no doubt about his talent at all. There's no doubt. It's just getting them here. He missed the tour. He missed the tour to England. So getting back and bedding down to playing red ball cricket is going to be very important for him. He's played a lot of white ball cricket over the last 2 years. So it's now how quickly he adjusted again to playing red ball cricket.
Apart from West Indies white ball duties, Paul has been active in the Caribbean Premier League and the Indian Premier League. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
And finally, the NBA season will begin on December 22 after an agreement was reached with players over scheduling, salary figures and free agency dates. The usual season start date in October was pushed back because the coronavirus pandemic caused delays to the 2019-2020 campaign. But the NBA and its players' union have agreed a new date and a 72-game season, a reduction on a usual campaign. The NBA draft will take place on November 18. From November 20, free agents can start negotiating with teams and will be able to sign deals from November 22. The 2019-2020 season was halted by the coronavirus pandemic in March and concluded in a bubble environment in Orlando on October 11, 4 months later than the season typically ends. The Los Angeles Lakers ended a 10-year wait for their 17th NBA title, with LeBron James leading his team to a 4-2 finals win over the Miami Heat. And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. My name is Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching.